Welcome back to another episode of Hudson's Highlights. I know it has been a few days. I have been diligently working in the background to try to improve the channel, made some improvements to the background, some minor improvements to the audio quality and the visual quality. Just trying to make every episode that I produce for you guys, me and my wife together, of course, because she is the producer of this show. Trust me, I am not the one doing this stuff. Just trying to make every episode better and better. Each episode I intend to, at least so I can get to a point where I feel like it's of good quality. I'm going to continue to try to improve each episode. So just bear with me here as we work together to get this channel up and running to a good standard. So usually on Mondays, I'll try to drop a episode of Hudson's Highlights that we'll go over news and movie news and TV news. The problem is it just wasn't much in the space of news this week. Like I said, every 7 to 9 days I'll try to get those out, but unfortunately, there were a few rumors that dropped. But seems like most of them were debunked. So I decided to move Friday's episode of Hudson's Highlights up until today, Monday. So what we're going to cover today, like I mentioned last week, I intended to do it on Friday. We're going to cover The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 1. This will be a full spoiler discussion. This show has been out for about 2 years. What I want to do is do a weekly episode of the Season 1 leading up until Season 2. That way we have a full spoiler review of every episode in Season 1 leading us up to Season 2, Episode 1. My wife was going to do episode 1 with me, but she has some things going on, so she was not able to do this episode. Hopefully we can get her on Friday's episode. But diving right in here, immediately in the opening of episode 1 of The Last of Us, my brain got directly into excited mode. I wasn't trying to do this. This is just what happened. As soon as the thing popped up for HBO and I knew it was Last of Us, I sat straight up in my seat. Just showing you how good of a season that was. A few things did come to mind when watching this over again, because I only watched season 1 once. I think I watched episode 3 twice because it was just a really good episode. But for the most part, I watched season 1 only one time. So, as I mentioned, I didn't feel like I needed to rewatch it, but it makes sense. You know, of course, we're human. You forget things that happen. So, a nice recap of what happened in season 1 is justifiable for a season that was so good they got a season 2. So, I will say the opening interview between the two scientists and the host of the TV show that was on TV in the season in episode 1 was terrifying. And it wasn't as terrifying the first watch because you don't know what's going to happen in season 1. But through a rewatch, because I know how season 1 culminates, watching that opening scientific interview was terrifying this time because, of course, you assumed that was a prelude to what's going to happen, but you just don't know how deep. Rewatching it, like I said, it was shivering me timbers terrifying. Just the way that the host of the interview's face and demeanor changed when the scientist was explaining about the fungi and what they could do if the world were to warm and they need to evolve to start attaching themselves to human hosts because of the temperature differences. And just a really good scene. They didn't need to put that in there. Honestly, that was just caviar for the crackers. The episode 1 was a full episode without them adding that intro. So that intro was just flavor bait and it was good. Very, very, very terrifying. But they did put it and it was good. I appreciate it. That was fan service and it was well deserved. They moved on and they give us a dynamic between Joel and his daughter. Beautiful dynamic, beautiful father-daughter dynamic. Really shows you that they lean on each other. He works a lot, so he forgets a lot, and she's kind of playing the daughter / familiar assistant in the family. Um, really good dynamic between Joel and Tommy, showing Joel being the older brother, kind of the more responsible one, had a kid, had a house, was trying to make this company work, and Tommy being the little brother who kind of just doing what he wants to do right now in life, and Joel picking up the pieces. I do like that we follow the daughter. What is the daughter's name in this show? Give me just a second. I'm gonna look this up because I'm gonna talk about her a couple of times, and I don't want to just keep calling her the daughter. I know a bunch of you guys know it, but I never played the games, so I do not. The Last of Us show cast. It's not Ellie. Ellie is the Sarah. There we go, Sarah. So I like the fact that we follow Sarah to school, and of course, when you're watching it the first time, you don't really understand the little pieces, the little breadcrumbs they dropped in episode one that threw like they must have knew this was going to be a hit because a lot of these things they gave us in episode one, they really will only be appreciated on a rewatch. And like I said, we follow her to school, and you see this kid. Of course, I think if you play the video games, you probably will get it. But for just somebody who hasn't, you really see this kid, and he's in class, and he has the what will become known as the twitch, and he's in the middle of class doing that, and just a really nice touch there, just to give us that as the audience, to give us that, just showing like this isn't something that's gonna go away. Like this is a big, big thing. And to double down on that, of course, Sarah in the show, she is going to surprise Joel with a birthday present that she's going to get this watch fixed for him. And she takes the watch to this jewelry shop where they repair jewelry. And the owners of the shop, the owner's wife in particular, because there have been rumors or basically news from other countries that this thing is taking off and it just hasn't made it to where they are. And while the owner is repairing the watch, you see the wife burst out of the back and she's shutting the shop down. Like she knows whatever this is, it's going to be here within it, not later. It's going to be here like now. And she rushes Sarah out of there, just showing you as the audience, like, hey, listen, if you think this is going to be something that we can contain, you're very wrong. Like, this is going to get bad. It's going to get bad fast. And I like that they kept going back to the watch. They kept going back to time. And if you're paying attention in the first episode, you realize that the show starts, I want to say it starts about 7 a.m. that morning, maybe a little after 6. And it really ends about a little less than 24 hours later. So all this is happening within the span of a day. But anyway, so she gets rushed out of there. She makes it home. She goes to the neighbor's house because she promises she would come by later and check on them. And you can tell right off that the dog knows something's wrong with the grandma. The grandma's in that chair, and as Sarah gets ready to leave, the dog is basically like staring at the grandma, like with his unfamiliar face. Like, I should know you, but I don't. And just the confusion in the dog's face, kind of another double down, like, hey, things are gonna get bad. And of course, she leaves. She makes it out of there safely. Nothing really happens at this point. She makes it home. She presents Joel the watch for his birthday, telling him that she knows that he would never have gotten it fixed for himself, which just really shows you the dynamic, the father-daughter relationship they have. Like, she knows him enough to know that he is so consumed with making things right by her that little things like, something that would have cost, since she mentioned it, $20 from the jewelry shop to get fixed. Um, you know, things like that, just knowing that he's so consumed with keeping the business afloat, keeping money coming in, making sure she's taken care of, that the little things he's not even doing for himself. And I thought that was a really good touch that she cared about him enough to say, "Hey, I'll get this fixed for him," even though she used his money. But it was just a beautiful, beautiful scene between father and daughter. A couple things happen. Tommy goes to jail, but none of those things are really important during the episode. Just more showing you relationship dynamics between uh, Tommy and Joel than anything else. But the episode really does lean heavily into the relationship between Joel and Sarah for the most part, and we learn why at the end. But um, at this point, while Joe's going to get Tommy out of jail, Sarah wakes up, and this is when things just kind of tank, man. The dog is at the door, and the dog is whining, and the dog makes it inside. And she, as a neighbor would do, your dog gets out, your dog gets loose, you want to bring the dog back. She knows the dog, and she's trying to bring the dog back to its owner, and the dog is like, I'm out of here. If you want to go in there, you do you, but I'm going this way. So she makes it inside, and she sees the neighbor. The husband's been attacked. The daughter, and he looks to his left. First, he says, "Help me," but then he realizes that it's a little girl, and he looks down, and you see the grandma attacking the wife, and you see these spores, these tentacles coming out of her mouth, and she, of course, Sarah gets out of there, and the grandma darts after her in a speed in which she should not be able to travel, which just shows you what these things can do once they have attached to your body. Like, they have control. Um, Ailments be damned. If your knees can bend, they're bending. And she went out. She got after Sarah pretty quick. Tommy saves the day. Well, kind of. He asks what we're doing here. Joe, boom, knocks her out. Well, honestly, if you get hit in the head with that blunt of an object, you're probably dead. But they didn't let us stick around to find out. Them trying to leave was intense. They just showed, like, with a populated area, how hard it would actually be if you needed to get out of there. Like, even right now, if you stop and you think about it, wherever you live, if everybody, not half the city, not three-quarters of the city or the township, let's say everybody in that town were to get up right now and they all were trying to leave, how far would you make it? Seriously, it made me think. Honestly, I don't. In my town, there's about 4 or 5 ways to get out of town. And if every person in this town were to try to get up and get out of here right now, we all wouldn't get out of here. That's just the reality of it. The majority of people would not here. And they really did a good job showing that. Like, hey, we just haven't designed our infrastructure, our highway system to accommodate for that kind of mass exodus. And a really good job, really good touch, just showing like the desperation. They're cutting through cornfields. They're trying to just find anywhere. They're not even traveling roads at this point. They're just trying to travel north. They're just north will do. And really good scene, really good touch. And this is what the show really takes a sad turn. Everything that's happening is exciting, it's exhilarating, it's action packed, it's intense. You're really tied into the characters and what may happen to them. And then we're in this field, and after a few things happen, the truck flips. They end up getting out of the vehicle, but Sarah's hurt her leg. She can barely walk. So Joel's like, "This is my kid. I'll carry you." He's carrying her through this field, and there's this soldier by himself. And they're like, "Hey, listen, we're not infected. We're just trying to get out of the city." And the soldier hears some orders, and you can tell, like, in this moment, even the soldier was like, "Could you repeat that?" Because he was even stunned that's what they wanted him to do. And ultimately, you find out that he was told to terminate. um, and he shoots. But because Joel's carrying her, when he aimed center mass, she took all the bullets, and naturally, she didn't survive. Tommy ended up killing the soldier before he was able to finish Joel off. But that scene, if you can't tell from the tone of my voice and how quickly my like tone changed, that moment in the show tonally shift the show in such an amazing way. That is some impeccable directing. For you to take an audience and have them on the edge of their seat, panicked in their chair because they're concerned for the characters that you've introduced to them, and then to pivot that emotion in the show on its heels and make the full audience drop their jaw in one moment is cinema. That's how you produce a TV show. That's how you direct a TV show. If you want to snatch the soul from your audience, you do something like that. And that is why when the show started, from the beginning of the introduction music, I was already, me and my wife both, on the edge of our seats because we knew we were in for something. And this is something we've already seen. So I said all that to say this: if you haven't watched this show and you've made it this far in Hudson's highlights, you might want to check it out. It is not, and I know this is overused, it is not just a good show. It's not just a great show. I wouldn't be surprised if 20 years from now, we're not still talking about how great, how once in a lifetime this show was. At least season one. I can't speak for season two yet, but here's for hoping, right? Well, I want to say, I think it's 20, maybe 25 years. It's between 20 and 25 years later after Sarah was killed. And Joel's basically living in this encampment, this militarized encampment in Boston. And just another way they took just the direction this show was good. They opened up with this kid walking across the forest, and you can tell this kid's been walking for a long time, and you could just tell in his face once he realized that he made it to Boston, that he felt safe. Like wherever he came from, he made it. He made it to his destination, and he gets there. They take him in. They're asking him questions like, "Hey, were you alone?" And the kid's like, "Yeah." And you just know that he didn't start that way, and it just breaks your heart because this kid probably left with a group of people, and probably a lot of people died trying to get him to Boston. And for him to make it, it's just like one of those moments where it's like it just shows you the world has gone to crap, man. There is nothing left for people. And for a child who had to be born after this started, he made it to Boston, and it just gives you this moment of, whew, maybe there's going to be some upside here. And then they test the kid for the fungus, and he is positive for it. And she tells the kid, one of the soldiers, "Hey, listen, you made it, you're safe. Once we get you all fixed up, we're going to get you out of here. You're going to play with some toys, you're going to have some fun." And the whole time you're realizing that they're basically going to euthanize this kid. And they do it right there on the screen in the chair. They didn't waste any time. And it's just heartbreaking, man. Because you feel for this kid, but you also understand the situation. Like, they can't let this kid turn in this encampment. So they have to do what they have to do, and it's just sad. And then they cut to just some of the working conditions in the encampment. And then you see this pit where they're throwing these bodies into, and they're basically burning them to ash. And that's where Joel is working for today. You could tell he's aged some, but not just physically. Like, you can tell that Joel has been through some things. Like, his face looks roughed. He looks strained. He looks like a man that has lost it all. And there's this woman who was working the pit with him. A truck backs up, excuse me, and they back up with this trailer, or the back of the truck's full of bodies, and the first body that we get to is this kid, and she looks at Joel and says, I just can't do this." And Joel coldly, emotionlessly grabs his kid body and just dumps it into the fire. And that was painful. Painful. Um, Ellie really shows up here for the most part. You see, they spend a lot of time explaining that Ellie has been essentially, she's been, at least should be infected. And spend a lot of time just basically giving us a backstory or a backlog of how Joel and Ellie ended up together. But the meat of this episode really was Joel's journey to this point. And man, it was heart wrenching. It was exciting. It was exhilarating. It was edge of your seat, you know, just something to behold. And I've already seen this full season, and I can go in there and watch episode 2 right now. I'm not going to. I'm going to wait till Friday. That way I'll have it fresh in my mind for the recording. But in the end of the episode, of course, Joel and Ellie take off on this journey where he's been essentially promised the world if he can get her there, or at least what he considers the world, everything he's looking for, a battery, a truck to get to his brother, because they've been separated since essentially the fallout of the world. And he hasn't really heard from him in weeks, and he's concerned that maybe he's dead. And he's trying to get to him. And his way to get to him is to get this girl where she's supposed to go. If he can get her where she needs to go, then they'll give him everything. The Fireflies, the anti-militant group, will give him everything that he needs to get to his brother. And now at this point, that's all he cares about. He can give 2 squirts of rat urine about Ellie. He's just trying to get to Tommy. And that's really where we stop. Man, was this an episode? I'm just reminded of why I was so locked in when I started watching season 1. And really good job of them to leave so many Easter eggs in this episode for a rewatch, because there was just so much that you didn't fully grasp how important things were until you watched the full season and then went back and watched it again. And then you start, like, your eyes like, whoa, I didn't even notice that the first time I watched it. So if you haven't given it a rewatch, I'm sure most of you watch my channel probably plan on it. Give it a rewatch, man. Tell me what you think. If you caught some of the things I caught, maybe you caught more things than I did. If you did, please let me know down in the comment section below. Tomorrow, there will be dropping episode 4 of Daredevil Born Again. I will be doing a full spoiler review of that episode tomorrow night and have that up on my channel. Barring any technical issues or any things that my wife wants to correct on the channel, but I'm anticipating that we'll have that out for you guys tomorrow around 9:30. The episode starts at 8. Yeah, so around 9:30. So keep a lookout for that. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for sticking through this episode of Hudson's Highlights. I hope to see you on the next one. Take care.